Good evening. I am Anitra Steele, Chair of the Forums Committee. Welcome to our forum for the Independent School Board. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Kansas City, Jackson, Clay, and Platte counties, and the Alpha Kappa Alpha Advocate for Social Justice Initiative of chapters Beta Omega and Psi Tau Omega. This forum will be recorded and is available on the League's webpage, lwvkc.org, and on YouTube. The League of Women Voters is a trusted grassroots, nonpartisan organization whose members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy. While we neither endorse candidates or political parties, we are directly involved with the sharing of the important issues. Our mission is to empower voters and defend our democracy. We envision a democracy where every citizen has the knowledge, the right, the desire, and the confidence to participate. Our membership is open to everyone. I'd like for you to know the other League members volunteering with me. Stephanie Revels is the timekeeper, and our Zoom is monitored by Laura Mountjoy. The public has sent in the questions via the League's website, lwvkc.org. Tonight, we welcome our moderator and League member, Cheryl Barnes.
Thank you, Anitra. I'm delighted to join you for the Candidates Forum for the Independent School Board. The Board of Education is a volunteer representative body elected by the registered voters of the local public school district. The board governs the school district and provides leadership and advocacy for public education. School boards make decisions in the best interest of the entire district. The independent school board members serve a 6-year term. Tonight, we'll hear from the candidates running for school board. Forums last approximately 90 minutes. I'll ask each candidate the same question, selected from those submitted by the public. The order of candidate responses has been determined by random rotation. Each candidate will be given 90 seconds to respond to each question and 2 minutes for a closing statement. All of the candidates running for these seats have been invited. We welcome the candidates participating in tonight's forum. Candidates, please answer the question asked and stick to the topic. There will be no rebuttals, but you may go back to an issue during your 2-minute closing remarks. So let us begin. And Jeffrey, Jewel, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Zachary, then Justin, and Sarah. So Jeffrey, the first question is, please introduce yourself and tell us what in your educational and professional background qualifies you to be on the school board.
Well, my name is Jeffrey Jewell, and I'm currently the Fire and EMS Chief for Intercity Fire. I've been in the fire business for 23 years and gone through Fire Academy and many different training and certifications for that. I spent 36 years total in public service, and I hold 2 bachelor's degrees in criminal justice, one in criminal justice and one in fire administration. I was a graduate of Fort Osage High School in 1987, and so I've got a lot of experience with involving the schools. Obviously, I spent 16 years in the Blue Springs School District supervising police officers in the schools, and so lots of experience working with children and teachers and staff and parents, and so life is pretty much my certification at this point. And so I look forward to serving on the Independent School Board.
Thank you. Now we'll go to Zachary. Zachary or Zach?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you are welcome to call me Zachary. About 2 other people in my life do that, but Zach is usually if I hear Zachary, I think I'm in trouble. So yeah, Zach is
Zach
good.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So same question. Please introduce yourself and tell us what in your educational and professional background qualifies you to be on the school board.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity. Incredibly grateful for the work you all do that is nonpartisan, but simply engaging people in the process. we need more of that in our community and in our world. So thanks for hosting this forum and opportunity for our community to get to know us. Um, so my primary entry into this experience is that I'm a dad of an ISD kid, and soon to be a dad of two ISD kids. And it's been that experience that kind of pushed me to want to get more engaged, not only with our schools, but our schools aren't in a vacuum. Our schools are the heartbeat, if not the soul, of our economy and our city. If a city doesn't have great schools, it's going to struggle to attract businesses. It's going to struggle to attract services. And so that's my primary entry point. I'm a dad and I care a lot about my kids' education. Uh, I've spent majority of my career currently, I serve as the Assistant Vice President of Academic Affairs and the Dean of the Community of Christ Seminary at Graceland University. I focus on assessment and accreditation. I can bring that to the board, but most importantly, I'm a community connector. I serve on the Community Services League board. I serve on the Centerpoint Medical Center board. I'm active in the chamber. I'm active in Rotary. So I am a community connector and a dad, and that's what I will bring to this.
Thank you. Justin?
Yeah, my name's Justin Durham. I too am a dad. I have a son who graduated last year from Truman High School, and I have twin daughters that attend Truman High School now. They are juniors, and all of my kids have been very involved in athletics, academics, the fine arts. So I've gotten to experience all that as they've gone from kindergarten all the way through. So I'm very proud of them. And I think professionally, what sets me apart is I'm an architect. I went to K-State, got a degree in interior architecture, and then I did my master's of architectural business management at KU. And when I graduated K-State in 2002, we moved to Independence, or I moved to Independence, and been here ever since. My company that I'm an architect with, a partner with, we do nothing but educational environment. So we focus on early childhood through higher ed. And so I've been doing that for over a little over 13 years now and work specifically with the Independent School District for all 25 years of my career. So I'm pretty proud about that. I know a lot of the students, I know a lot of the parents, a lot of the staff, and have a lot of experience with the community itself. Some of my most proud moments is I was able to start the academies back about 13 years ago. So I was one of the starting businesses, and I got to go on some trips and learn about the academies and help the school district develop those. And I am super proud of what those have brought to so many of our high school students over the past 13 years.
Great, thank you. And Sarah, will you introduce yourself and tell us what in your educational and professional background qualifies you to be on the school board?
Sure. My name is Sarah. I have lived here in Independence since 1997. I make a joke that education is the family business because on my father's side, educators go back 6 generations, but my sisters and I and my first cousins on my dad's side all chose not to be teachers. And our kids are becoming teachers, so we didn't get away from it. But we all were educated and raised our kids here in Independence in the school district. My two graduated in 14 and 17. And then I have nieces and nephews that went all the way up through 21. I've been a volunteer with the school since 2000 as a youth friend. And then when that ran out or the expired, as an Inspire friend, and of course a PTA mom while my kids were in school, and it was still okay for me to be seen in the same school they were in because, God forbid. I have served churches in the Independence area for 25 years this year, um, over on the west side on 23rd Street and in Inglewood. And then the last 6 years I've been over on the east side in Susquehanna area. So my church sits on the line of Fort Osage and Independent School District. So I have kids from both and families from both in my church. I have two bachelor's degrees in English, and I'm out.
Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah, that 90 seconds goes fast,
Yeah.
doesn't it? So the second question will start with you, Justin. What do you think is needed to recruit and retain high quality teachers and staff?
Yeah, I think that the school district's done a great job with that. I'll start off with the 4-day week. I do work with a lot of school districts in the area through my work. And I know that Independence was looking for a way to have a leg up on hiring teachers, retaining teachers, and when they threw out the 4-day week, I think that was huge for the school district. I know that, teacher applications went up 400 or 500% almost immediately. So we were able to attract a lot of good talent. And we've been able to retain them because of the vote last November that passed pretty overwhelmingly for the 4-day week. Um, for retaining and keeping our teachers, I think we need to make sure that we support them. We make sure that our classroom sizes stay appropriate, that we back them up when it comes to curriculum and education. Um, I really think that, I know quite a few of the teachers, and there's always things that we can improve on. So it's talking to them, getting to know them, and figuring out really what can support them. It comes down to making sure that we have substitute teachers, which was a board topic a few weeks ago when I was at the board meeting, and how we handle that to make sure that when teachers are out, that we have those long-term subs and those people in the building that are familiar with those students and the staff that can kind of fill in as teachers need. So I think it's just important to get to know the staff and some of those little things that we can do to improve their daily life, and that's how we can retain them a little bit better.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Same question to you, Sarah. What is needed to recruit and retain high-quality teachers and staff?
I think primarily the teachers need to feel supported in teaching, and from the things I've heard from various teachers, they seem to feel quite often like they can't ask questions or anything like that. So I think that helping them feel more supported and heard and capable of addressing challenges as they go through is a big problem. I think also the various staff in the schools need to feel supported, and I hear sometimes complaints there too. And so I think in terms of the 4-day week, I have been asked multiple times if I'm for it or against it. And the way I see it, it's already a non-issue whether you're against it or not because we voted last November and it passed. So we make the best of it. But I think that teacher input and staff input needs to be listened to carefully because they do have opinions and insights that other people don't have when they're not in the classrooms.
Thank you. Zach, same question.
Yeah.
What is needed? Oh, excuse me, go ahead.
Sorry, you don't have to repeat. I got it. Sorry about that, Cheryl. One of the coolest things about running for the school board is the honor of being endorsed by our teachers in the Independence NEA. I am constantly amazed at our teachers, the work they do, the experiences they have, and yet they persist, right? Anybody who knows a teacher knows somebody with a sense of calling and a sense of duty. So a few things come to mind in terms of how can we not only retain our teachers, but how can we support them? And the primary focus for me is value. Do they feel valued? And that's really hard in a state like Missouri. We're one of the last states in funding education, which makes it really difficult to pay our teachers competitive wages. Regardless of if you're in school 4 days a week or 7 days a week, it's really challenging when 70% of teachers in the United States have second jobs. That's got to change. We've got to figure out ways that we can pay our teachers what they are worth. They do a job that not only is transformative, but essential for our community and our society. And second to that is culture. I think we've come a long way in the past few years in ISD, but we have a lot of culture rebuilding to do to ensure that our teachers not only feel safe, but feel a sense of belonging and connection, that they're there because this is more than a paycheck. It's a sense of call.
Thank you. Jeffrey, same question. And are you Jeffrey or Jeff?
Jeffrey. I think that the Independence School District's done a fantastic job in the last several years about making sure that our teachers are paid in the top tier with 3 of the largest pay raises in the history of the district. And that's pretty impressive. But I go back to 2 things that I wanted to say about running for school board, and that's safety. If teachers and students feel safe in their classrooms, they're gonna be more effective. And obviously having the support of the administration, that's also key. Like everyone's pretty much said they've got to feel valued. And I think, that's important to make sure that our staff feels valued. And then I think as far as keeping teachers, I was skeptical of that 4-day week. I voted no for it, to be honest with you. And then I got chastised when I got back to the fire station. My people that have kids were like, well, we like it. And, my concern was, well, what do you do with daycare and stuff? But it's definitely caused people to apply for the independent school district. I have friends that work at Blue Springs, Green Valley, and other districts, and they've all said, we'd like to, we wish we had that. And so having said that, I think you're going to retain teachers because of that 4-day week. And also the applications. I think you had like 90 applications before we started that 4-day, and now there's like 700 applications a year. And so that shows that, that's the type of stuff that we need to be doing to keep our teachers and keep everybody happy.
Great, thank you for that. Sarah, we'll start with you with this question. If the administration considered outsourcing bus driver services like they recently did with substitutes, what information would you want prior to making a decision?
I would want to know, well, first of all, why they were doing it, if it's a funding issue, and I would want to know that all of the bus drivers are carefully screened, because I know we have a process within the school district. Those would probably be my top two questions: why we needed to outsource it, and if protocols would still be in place for those that are riding the bus, because you put your children on a bus and you expect them to be safely arriving to school. And so those would be primary. I would probably also be asking about whether we would have other school district employees on the buses too, because I know that things happen on school buses. And so if you have an outside service doing the driving, then perhaps you need somebody on the buses as a bus monitor or something riding with them. So those would be huge questions. I would also be asking in terms of our budget if we were able to do that, because I understand that we've had some other issues and with bonding and those types of issues that are up for grabs, I would be concerned about that.
Thank you. Zach, same question.
Yeah. So these kinds of questions can sometimes be challenging for me because I'm a data guy. And without having the data, I'm not totally sure how I might engage in that kind of issue. So I'm going to make some hypotheticals for the sake of the question to figure that out. But primarily, first and foremost, we're going to need to, I would be an advocate for clear and full data. Not only the financial data, but the human data as well. Is this driven by qualitative measures of experience, or is this driven by the inability to afford it? Is this driven by regulatory issues? Is this driven by, what is the real driving force behind it? One of the things I think our district has struggled with is using full data. In my experience, we have data sets and we use the data that fits our narrative. And that's what we produce and say, see, X equals this. And so because of that, we need to do that. That may be true, but there's often a Y and a Z as well. So all those data sets need to be considered to figure out what's really going on. The other thing that comes to mind immediately, I work with Community Services League. Would there be opportunities to partner to keep internal to our community some vocational or job training? Are there organizations we could work with to try to figure out opportunities for economic or vocational advancement within our community and keep it as local and centralized as possible?
Thank you. Jeffrey, same question. Would you like for me to repeat it or?
No, I think I heard it. I tell you what, I would be open to options, but cautious. I'm telling you right now, I'm the biggest supporter of bus drivers. I think they're one of the most important positions in the district. They're the first one to see our kids when they get on the bus in the morning. And so their smile when a kid gets on the bus is what sets the entire stage sometimes for a kid's good day or bad day. And it just seems to me if you outsource that, you're not going to have your local drivers that are going to be doing that. And we know that consistency and familiar faces is critical. And so I would be skeptical if we were going to try to outsource that. But I think that you have to weigh all your options, obviously. But I'm a big supporter. I think we need to value the bus drivers we currently have. They do a great job, and cost. Just because it's a little bit more expensive to keep our own, I don't think that outweighs the quality. So hopefully that's the way I feel about that.
Thank you. And Justin?
Yeah, I will mimic some of the stuff you've already heard. I think cost would be the number one thing for me. We have a nice transportation center up off of Powell Road, 900 Powell Road. So it used to be around 160 buses running diesel and natural gas out of that facility. We've made some pretty significant investments in that site for that facility and also the buses that we currently own. So we put a lot of effort, a lot of our monetary value into that system that we currently have. So not only from a facility and a asset type concern, I would want to know what effect that would have on the current bus drivers that we do have that show up each and every day. And just like Jeffrey said, they're the first ones to greet, the first one or the last ones to see them as they get off the bus every day. So how would that impact them in terms of their salary, their take home pay? Would they have a job at this other place and maybe be able to keep them employed? I would have lots of questions about that. And I would want to be reassured that we are still supporting those that have supported us for a long time, that have driven those buses, that have greeted those kids, that have dealt with some of those discipline things that we know happen on a bus and things like that. So for me, it's about the people and it's about the service that they can provide. And it takes a city, a community to run our school district, and they are a huge part of it. So those would be the things that I would want to know before making any big moves.
Great, thank you. The next question, we will start with you, Zach. And it is, this question was submitted by several people. What is your position on the 4-day school week? Would you support a return to a five-day week? What would be your recommendations to improve the current 4-day week?
Yeah. As you can imagine, even though we voted on it, this is still pretty important to a lot of folks out there. And honestly, it was one of the primary reasons I decided to run in 2024. At that time, and still, my main contention was not necessarily pro or against the 4-day week. It was there was not nearly enough community engagement and community participation in that decision. I would have liked to see us take a vote on it from the get-go. And so I'm really glad that we ended up engaging the community in that way to get the voice of the people in that process. For me in my personal life, there are pros and cons to the 4-day week. But I have a really big village in Independence. I've got family I can count on. I've got resources I can use. Again, going back to the data, one of my primary concerns here is that a lot of the data we've seen from the district, even produced by third parties, suggests an overwhelming support of the 4-day school week. But what it leaves out is where is that support coming from? And conversely, who's not supporting it and why? Is this creating an economic gap in our community? Is this better for the most vulnerable students or the students who have resources in large villages? It's that kind of data that we need to look at and say, not just 80% love it. What about the 20% that are really struggling? Can we create sustainable systems and processes for them as well?
Thank you. Jeffrey, you're up.
Well, like I said, I voted no for it back in November, and then I got educated. And I think that looking at the positive things about it, I support it. In fact, my job as board member would be to continue to make sure that we support it so that it works. At the end of the day, the purpose of schools is to educate our kids. And so we need to look to see that it's continued to have the time and we got to see the data to make sure that it's being successful. I've heard pros and cons. I mean, obviously I had 4 kids and I can't imagine trying to, like Zach said, if you didn't have a family support to watch your kid on that 4th day, that would be tough. And I understand that. I hear that a lot. But I think people are getting used to it at this point, and I think they are finding ways. And obviously the retention rate of teachers is crucial. I mean, you got to have teachers to teach, and we have a surplus of teachers applying. And so I think the pros outweigh the cons right now, but we need to look at that in 3 years to make sure that that's continuing to improve. And I think we're perfecting it. Every year it seems like it's gotten better to me. And I do like what Zach said. Maybe we did that at the very first, put it to a public vote, but it did pass in a public vote and quite handily. And I think that it's our job as board members to make sure that that continues to improve. And so I like it.
Thank you. Sarah, you're up now. Would you like for me to repeat the question?
Would you?
Sure. This question was submitted by several people. What is your position on the 4-day school week? Would you support a return to a 5-day week? What would be your recommendations to improve the 4-day week?
Well, personally, I, like Jeffrey, was hesitant at first before the original vote but I liked the idea that it was going to provide enrichment and other opportunities on Mondays. While it does do that, there is not transportation for people to get their kids there. They have to provide their own transportation. And that is one thing that concerns me because not everybody can take advantage of it. As a mom who did have a large village, like Zach said, I could call my mom or my sisters, but if you don't have that village, it becomes quite a thing. So I do like the idea of revisiting it, not immediately, obviously, that'd be ridiculous, but in amount of time to see. But I believe some of the students are benefiting from this because they can work on Mondays and it gives them time to work, especially with the financial challenges families face today.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And Justin.
Yeah, I think I love the 4-day week. I think it gives independents some unique opportunities. One of those being staff retention and that we've already covered. But one thing that I see quite a bit is I know that the 4-day week is a net neutral. It doesn't really gain the school district any money because we don't go to school one day. But where I do see improvement is in a lot of the construction projects that I manage for the district. We can allow those people to come in on those Mondays and get a jump start on the summer work. Summers always seem to get shorter and shorter, but we always have projects that have to be done over the summer. So by allowing them to get in, we actually start to save money on some of our bids. So that does pay a net positive back to the district in terms of monetary value. It allows our custodial staffs that work on those Mondays to kind of get ahead in the buildings, and it allows them to do some things without students in the building. So we're able to keep up with our buildings and some of the maintenance and the deferred maintenance that we have to do quite often. Coming from my kids' value, I was told that if I didn't vote for it last November, that they were going to disown me. So I made sure to vote yes for it. And, being in high school, it's easier for them, right? It gives them that mental break. My son was able to work. My daughters got to do things with band and other things on those days off to really improve. But I do believe that we can offer more options to maybe those families of the elementary and the middle school students that maybe don't have that ride or they don't have the ability to stay home alone on those Mondays while mom and dad go to work, right? So I think there's always things that we can do to improve on it and give them a little bit more option as we move forward.
Thank you. We'll start with you, Sarah, with this question. How will you collaborate with your board peers, both inside and outside of meetings, especially with those with whom you do not agree?
Well, I'm a trained mediator listed with the Missouri Bar. I've been leading churches for 25 years, and there's always somebody not happy. And so I'm used to listening to other points of view and working with them and trying to encourage people to bring their gifts and their ideas to the table. So I don't have a problem working with anyone. I might have a different opinion, but I tend to listen quite a bit and understand the other person's point of view. So I don't see any problem with working in meetings or outside of meetings with other members of the board.
Thank you. Justin?
Yeah, that's something that I do every day at work. I'm a partner at my firm, and we have several other partners, and sometimes we don't agree on business things or the things the way they should go, right? And that's totally fine. I think in a closed setting, we all get to air our beliefs, our ideas, right? But I truly feel that when we leave that kind of sacred piece where we are in a meeting alone, that when we go out to the public, we should be a united force, and all kind of try to agree as best we can, right? It just creates unity. It makes a good look for the board. It makes a good look for the school district. And then that can start to attract some families to us. So I truly believe that's a good way to do it. Yeah, and I think just the collaboration piece, it's not difficult. You just have to listen, and there's probably more similarities with the four of us on the screen than there are differences, right? So we should all be here for one thing, and that's the students and the staff of Independence and the school district, and making sure that, we are headed in a good direction. Because I think we have the affordable housing, I think we have the things, the amenities that people are looking for. I just think that, the school district is a huge driver for decisions for new families to come in, and we as the board can set that tone.
Super. Thank you. Zach?
I think it's unfair that Sarah is a recognized mediator and she gets to say that. That's really great to have that skill. Like Sarah, I've spent the majority of my career actually as a minister. And anyone who is familiar with church settings, you know that conflict arises quite a bit, that folks have different perspectives and ideas. One of the primary things I teach in graduate school is the processes of listening and creating culture change. The benefit of being curious before I lean toward certainty. So I see myself as someone who can genuinely listen, but more importantly, ask really important questions to clarify understanding. I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to say. Can you help me understand it a little more? And curiosity has become a aspect of my leadership and my approach to pretty much any community. But to like Justin said as well, uh, I think our community needs to see what civil discourse looks like again. The ability to disagree with grace and respect, to name that it's not personal, but that we simply have different approaches and perspectives on some of the issues that we are advocating for on behalf of our students and educators and staff. So, all of us are running because we have an opinion, we have perspectives, and I think the goal is, can we show our community that not only is it okay to disagree, but we can do that with kindness and respect.
Thank you. And Jeffrey?
I think just being respectful, you can agree not to agree. But I tell you, you look at the four candidates running here today, and I think all of us have that light personality. Everybody's smiling, and I think that goes a long way. We're not always going to agree on things, obviously, but there's no reason to be ugly about it. And I've seen other boards around the metro, especially in the last couple of years, that it's awful. And I think everybody here I don't think anybody's got an agenda. I think everybody's here for the betterment of the kids. And so, if me and Justin or me and Zach or really any of us, we go to a game or something and we're there. I mean, I can't imagine us being disrespectful to one another. And so at the end of the day, we've all been involved in the community and the kids. So I think just being nice to each other, but I don't foresee that being an issue.
Thank you. Zach, we'll start with you with this question. How will you strengthen the partnership between the school district and parents and other members of the community?
Yeah, this is a primary point for me. We've got to do a better job of engaging the community. And while that may sound harsh to the district, I certainly don't mean it in a harsh way. But what I'm really saying is, at the end of the day, the burden is on the district to do the engagement, not the other way around. Our families, our parents, our neighborhoods, they're facing quite literally unprecedented challenges with the economy, with work, with community. And so the district has to raise the bar and the standard in terms of engagement and opportunity to engage. I will say, I think over the last 2 years, we've done that. I think a strong community voice was heard at the onset of the 4-day week saying, hey, you didn't engage us enough. And to be fair to the district, I think they've worked to shift that a little bit, but there's definitely still work to be done. I'm about as engaged as you can get with my child's school, and I still miss stuff. And I'm like, what's that? I didn't know that was happening. What is that about? So I think there's various tools we can use. The district's taking advantage of some of those digital tools like apps and emails, text messaging, which has been a game changer. That's new in the last year and a half, 2 years. But more town halls, more opportunities to get input and buy-in from community voices. All of those. When I was a young pastor, the lesson I learned was you can never over communicate. There's no such thing.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeffrey, same question.
I think just
Go ahead.
that for me.
Sorry.
Just
Yes. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Who was that for?
It's Jeffrey.
Okay, sorry about that. I had a little delay there. I think Zach's right. I mean, the school district's done an outstanding job the last couple of years, especially this year. I mean, I get texts every day about the ice cream party and stuff, and I think that's important. And I think they've done a way better job this year getting the message out and stuff. But town hall meetings are great. But I talked to a teacher last night, and that was a discussion about what makes us effective. And I think the thing was, parents work and, different shifts, and especially, independents were 70% on free and reduced lunch. And usually that leads back to a single parent trying to raise kids. And so I get it. It is our job as a district to try to figure out ways to be innovative, to get parents in. And so I think we've done a better job, but we're going to have to do more. And we are no different than any other district around the country. We're all facing the same issue.
Thank you. Justin?
Yeah, I think when it comes to community engagement, I think we have to start to meet them where they're at, right? In terms of Jeff kind of hit on a little bit there where he said, they work all day. That's when the school district is in. That's when those people are working, the public information office, the superintendent, right? But I think the free time that some families may have would be in the evenings. And what can we do to reach out to them at more appropriate times, at more appropriate levels, so that we can get that better engagement piece? Whether that be through surveys, just quick data surveys, things like that, that we can gather the data and then really start to make a meaningful impact in terms of, those that are going to participate in it are the ones that are passionate about it, and those are the voices. And so, just trying to find different ways to communicate with them, like you guys said, the text messages and some of the things that are happening now. I know that the band uses an app that, we get messages all the time, which is fantastic. So that's something that started that, you can't always count on your student to communicate to you. Most of the time you can't. So we need to be able to reach those parents directly and maybe find different ways to meet them where they're at. So that would kind of be my recommendation.
Thank you. And Sarah?
I agree with what they've said. As I've been in schools working and volunteering, I have had complaints, especially from parents that they didn't know. But I also encourage parents all the time to be asking questions and to reach out. You're right, it is the district's job, but I know that teachers sometimes are just overwhelmed with what they've got going on. I know there's been questions of transparency around especially the 4-day issue, but I think now what they're doing as far as keeping parents aware is critical, and I'm sure they can always do better, because can't we always do better at educating? But I think primarily something like town halls at the schools might be a good thing to do, just so that parents felt free to ask questions, because I always say, ask a question. You don't know unless you ask. So that's my answer.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Justin with this question. What effects will open enrollment have on our school district with a resident student able to become a non-resident student in another public school district if the receiving school accepts?
So
What
that would be
effect?
like students leaving our district to go somewhere else potentially.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, that would not be a good situation. I think that we need to really advocate for students to come to us, and how we do that could be done through several different ways in terms of the curriculum that we offer and things like that. Nobody wants to see our students go anywhere else. I don't think that a lot of our students would. I think we offer a lot in the independent school district, and we are very much on par with, some of our surrounding districts. I get to work with some of them as a professional, and I can tell you that, it's always keeping up with the Joneses, right? One does one and the other one tries to follow, and we try to stay on par with one another because we're always pushing to be better. I don't necessarily see a lot of students leaving independence, but if they were, we should take that as hard feedback from our community. I think that's direct feedback that they're not happy with something that they're seeing or something that's going on. And we need to assess that and look at that in terms of how do we get better? What can we do to fix those problems? Why are they leaving? There's lots of questions that I believe that would generate. And then we would need to adjust and make things better for us to attract students instead of lose students as we go.
Thank you. Jeffrey?
Yeah, that was one of my main jobs for 16 years was residency. And I seen where parents would live out in Johnson County, Missouri, and they'd work in the city. So they'd bring their kids up and drop them off at a bus stop and then expect that district to educate them all day. And the problem with that is it goes back to if they have an open enrollment, in my opinion, it'll be a disaster. I think that, if you want to go to Blue Springs or you want to go to Independence or Lee Summit, then you need to live in that district. That's the way it is. And a lot of districts, I certainly can understand if you live in a district that might be having issues, maybe educational issues or something. But the states, they need to step in and help fix those districts, because if you do open enrollment, I could see it being a disaster, overwhelm certain school districts. And, we pay taxes to have our kids go here. So I'm not sure how they break that down. I just think that's open up a can of worms that we really don't need.
Thank you. Sarah, your thoughts?
I probably kind of echo the others. I don't recommend that, and for multiple reasons. For one thing, kids don't make the social connections, and they don't have the community when they live somewhere else. I've talked to kids that went to private school, like in South Kansas City, but live in Independence, and then they can't get with their friends and things like that. But also, I feel strongly that our taxes are supporting the public school. I'm public school all the way. And I think that I would like to know why kids would want to leave the district. I'm concerned already because of the number of kids, even in my small youth group, who are in virtual school with K-12 rather than going to independent school when they're in the district, and trying to find out what's causing that. So I'm hoping that we don't get to the point where anyone can go to school anywhere while they're in K through 12 school.
Thank you. Zach, open enrollment?
Yeah, my main concern here, which echoes some things that have already been shared, is that it increases structural opportunity for inequity, who can and who can't, and why, and that's a real problem. So, in general, I'm not only cautious about it, I'm suspicious about it. That being said, I will be kind of a lone voice here. I think there are structures and designs of open enrollment out there, particularly in urban and suburban metros like we find ourselves in, that do give our students strategic advantages. And those kinds of partnership-oriented open enrollments, where we're sending our kids to specific places for whether it's specific vocational readiness or whether it's a unique academic program that is going to give them an advantage moving into college. Because of our close proximity to other districts and schools, unlike being in rural Missouri or rural Kansas, I do think there could be some advantages there. However, in general, I'm pretty cautious and suspicious because in most systems I've seen that do an open enrollment process, it largely leads to the kids that have opportunity leave, and the kids that don't are stuck. And I don't want to impose any structures on ISD that are going to continue to create a larger gap of inequity.
Thank you. Okay, the next question we'll start with Jeffrey. And it is, some of our legislators in Jeff City are talking about standardizing school board terms to 4 years and requiring candidates to list their political party and changing the elections from April to November. What are your thoughts on these proposed changes?
Well, I don't like to change it to November because it's more expensive. When I put stuff on the ballot for the fire department, it's the same thing. If we put it in November, it costs more than what it costs in April. And so that's an added cost to the school districts that we really don't need. And it just seems like it would be more political if we put it in November. And I just think that we need to stay, neutral and keep ours in April. As far as the 6-year terms of independence, we're the only school district in the state that has a 6-year term. I personally think it's too long. I would like to see it shortened to 4 years. But I've also heard feedback from people that's been on the board in the past, and they said, well, the thing is, you get your feet wet for your first 2 or 3 years, and then when you start learning what your role is and the benefits and the things that you can do, it's time to get off the board faster than you know it. But I would support that going to a 4-year term. A lot of districts are 3-year terms, and so but if it stays at 6, I guess it'll work. It's worked this long for us, but yeah.
Thank you. Sarah?
Can you repeat the question, make sure I got all the detail of it? Because they're still hollering at me out there.
There are three elements here. Some of our legislators in Jefferson City are talking about standardizing school board terms to 4 years, requiring candidates to list their political party, and third, changing the elections from April to November. What are your thoughts on these proposed changes?
Part of me doesn't like the idea of the state requiring political party, because I have always told my kids, and I grew up, my parents were teachers, grandparents, greats, that it is public schools are nonpartisan. They are here to teach the kids to prepare them to be proper adults. I don't see any need for party to come in. As far as the term, I don't have a problem with state setting the term if we have a state board of education. I would like it to be the same across the state. In fact, until I ran and looked at it, I didn't realize it was different from district to district. I thought everybody had 4-year terms. So I would not have a problem with it going to a 4-year term. As far as the April or November thing, I suppose the thought is that April is so that the new school year begins with fresh, enthusiasm. And if you did it in November, you would be stuck with half a year. So I don't have a problem with leaving it the way it is.
Okay, thank you. Jack?
Yeah. Sorry, just thinking about how I wanted to approach my answer. I think it would be a travesty if school board races became the last thing we need are school boards that are orienting themselves in.
Excuse me, Zach, we're getting an echo. Do you have your phone or a radio or something else on?
I do not.
There, that's better. Whatever you did, that's better. Go ahead. Do you mind starting over?
Sure. I think it would be an absolute travesty if the state made school board races partisan. It's the last thing in the world our communities need. We're already seeing the negative impacts of that on school board races across the country, let alone our own state and community, where partisan politics have invaded the space of benefit for community. And so there's a lot I could say about that, but you've given me 90 seconds, so I'll leave it at that. The other thing, I think moving it to November is a big mistake as well. April is the opportunity for our communities to really focus on local politics. November, we focus on state and federal elections, larger kind of civic or society issues in November. So April really gives the community a chance to kind of turn inward and say, who do we want for city council? Who do we want for mayor? Who do we want on our school board? We're not going to worry about, federal or state offices at the moment, short of there being a primary in April. So I also think that's a mistake. Now, where I agree, ISD and the U.S. Senate spend 6 years in office. I don't think we're the U.S. Senate. I don't think we need to spend 6 years in office. I very much hear my colleague Jeffrey. There is a benefit to having that tenure, sure. I don't think anybody's going to argue with that. But we can run again if we want to continue serving for 4 years. So I absolutely, it's always been silly to me that ISD board members spend 6 years on the board. I will be happy to do it if elected next week. But I would also be in favor of shortening the term as well.
Thank you. And Justin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think the 4-year term would be great. I think you might be able to entice more people to run if it was 4 years. I think that might be good. I think that the turnover or the churn, kind of like Zach said, in terms of, if you go over 4 years, you might have, there you give the ability of the community to vote, right? You can rerun always, but if they're not happy with the things that they elected you for, they get a little bit shorter term so that they can make some corrections on that as well. I think April, November, I agree. I think November would be a bad idea. I like the local elections and how they happen in April. I think it gives us as potential board members end of the fiscal year for schools is June 30th, July 1. So that allows us to come in at the appropriate time. We learn the ropes a little bit. We have the summer to do our classes, to learn things about the district, to do our homework. And then when the students come back in August, we can then hit the ground running. So I think that April is the right time to do it. I wouldn't be a proponent of November. And then when it comes to political party, I agree. I don't think decisions for students and staff are a political thing. I think that we need to be able to put aside many of our personal beliefs and any political sides that may be out there. And we need to make the best decision that we can for the kids. And that's really what this needs to be for. I don't think who you voted for in a presidential election should have anything to do with it. I don't think that should have anything to do with how we vote for motions that come in front of us as a school board member either. So,
Thank you. Sarah, we'll come to you first with this question. Please tell us about a teacher who inspired your interest in supporting our schools.
The teacher I will lift up is Tammy Anderson. She's actually the librarian at Van Horn High School. And I was a new preacher and pretty new in my community involvement on that level when we annexed those schools in '08, and I remember hearing all kinds of things, but I brag about her all over town because Van Horn Library is the best high school library. I don't care what you say about Truman. It is the best high school library in town. She goes out of her way to make it inviting. I've never walked in it. I've been mentoring kids there for 3 years. I've never walked in that didn't have 30 to 40 kids happily engaged in schoolwork, working on community stuff. She lifts them up. She celebrates them when they have successes. And that's what I think they all should be like. And most teachers that I know are that way. They put more into it than they get paid. They put more of their time and their heart and their love. So, but Miss Anderson's my favorite librarian at the moment.
Thank you. That same question. The teacher who inspired you to be interested in the district.
Well, I got to tell you, that is a challenging question. If you know me, you know that when I was in my public school days, I was a rough student. I was a class clown. I was very socially engaged, but very academically unengaged. And I made teachers' lives miserable with my shenanigans and antics. And so I'm not sure there is a teacher I have ever had that I don't look back now and think they're an angel. They bless them. They they went above and beyond. So it's a challenging question, but I guess that is in a lot of ways my answer. I think about Miss Patrick, Miss Johnson, Mr. Reinhardt, these student or these educators who saw obnoxious, silly kid, and rather than just discipline me and kick me out of the classroom, invested in me. Um, Taught me that, not only the subject that we were there to learn, but that I had a voice and that I mattered and that it was more than just an educational experience. It was a life transformative experience. And which is why I will, to the day I die, advocate that our teachers be paid millions of dollars because they are saints. They do work that is transformative and fundamental for uh, well-meaning, community-oriented lives.
Thank you. Justin?
yeah, I can say that I've probably got three. It's Chrissy Durham, Casey Nagel, and Corey Nagel. They're all family members, and I will tell you that we've sat around holidays, and we still do it to this day, and we talk about issues around the school district. William Chrisman, Randall, or William Southern, Randall, and Independence Academy, and we sit around and talk about how they feel, how the school's going, the cultures in their buildings, and things like that. And so we've been doing that for 20 plus years, and so just hearing them and the struggles that they have on their daily adventures with the students or parents or whatever may happen. And talking to them about current events and how things are going in their mind and what the teacher's pulse is. I think those three have really inspired me, along with my kids, to really find a way to give back and be a bigger voice for the community and for the school district.
Good, thank you. And Jeffrey?
Back when I rode my horse to school, I went to Proctor Elementary, and I had a teacher named Miss Forsey, and I never forgot her. I think over the years, I always remembered thinking back, what teacher had impacted me in fourth or fifth grade, and it was Miss Forsey, and I think it was because she was gentle but yet assertive to make sure you turn in your assignments and always gave you good praise. And then I have to mention Mr. Couch, who was a principal at Blackburn, and actually was my sixth grade. One of my sixth grade teachers at Fort Osage, and again, he was a gentle giant, but he always had a positive attitude and led by example. And I think that that's what kind of brought me back to if I could ever come back and help the school district if I got spare time. And when I retired the police department, I had some spare time on my hands, and so that's why I want to come back and give back, because we need to continue to hire teachers like both them.
Thank you. We'll start with you, Justin, with this question. So that echo came back. Describe your decision-making process and what specific actions you do to listen to all voices, not just the loudest ones.
Yeah, I get this a lot in my daily job working with communities and teachers, and usually the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? That's kind of the saying that a lot of people kind of know. But I think it's important to look past the noise, and Zach has said it a lot, and I do this at my job every single day. You have to trust the data. A lot of people will be vocal. They will come to meetings, they will do things, and they will be very loud and very passionate about their thoughts, ideas, and you can't dismiss that. That is their belief. But I also think you need to allow for other opportunities for people to provide their feedback. There's a lot of us out there that we're not comfortable speaking up in a public environment, but we can fill out a survey, we can make a phone call, we can talk one-on-one. You have to offer those different opportunities for people to feel safe, to give their thoughts and ideas and express their concerns as well. So I think you have to listen to everyone, gather the information, and then go where the data leads you. I think you have to listen to all voices, take everybody at face value, and everyone's concern is their biggest concern, right? And so you have to understand that and move forward with the data, the full set, and make the best decisions you can.
Thank you. Jeffrey, we're coming to you next.
I think my experience as a police officer and fire chief, those type of jobs obviously have decisions that involve safety and accountability. Basically you have to stay calm, and you've got to look at the data, like Justin said, and, focus on the facts, not the emotions outside, because, listening skills are important. I learned early on in my career that, it didn't take long to figure out if you don't listen and you do all the talking, you're not going to get ahead. And I think just, after you hear all the sides, then you make your decision and you stick with it. You stick with it, and you make good, sound decisions based on data and the facts.
Thank you. Zach?
Yeah. So my doctorate is in leadership, and I've read a lot of leadership texts. There isn't a text out there that won't tell you how important transparency is. And I think that's something, frankly, our district has struggled with, and it's one of the things I'm running on. When you are more transparent with the information you have that is informing you about the decisions you're making, whether it is liked or unliked, it tends to mitigate any suspicion or anger or frustration. Doesn't solve it, doesn't mean you're all on the same page, but there is a clarity of you all know why I made this decision, and you have as much appropriate data as possible to understand why I've made this decision. So transparency is really important. And the school board has an obligation to be as transparent as possible with the community. It is their school district. Short of legal or confidential issues that we need to appropriately keep confidential, we need to share as much information as we have. The community hasn't been in the executive session or the 5 meetings before the board meeting we've had about issues that are facing the school. So sharing that data, being transparent about how we arrived to a decision is absolutely fundamentally key and something our district has a bit of improvement to do.
Thank you. Sarah?
I probably sound like a repeat of them. I agree that I tend to make decisions when I have all the facts in front of me, and I try to listen to as many sides around any issue as I can and offer as much transparency as possible in the decision-making process so that all of those affected or involved in it are also feel like they have had say in the way the decision goes. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I have to do it without them, but I try to look at data and look at as much information before I make a decision as possible and seek as much input as I can before I make a decision.
Thank you. Jeffrey, we will start with you with this question. How do you define the separation of church and state regarding public school districts, and what areas should or should not be included?
Well, I think that I think that you do have to keep the church and state separate. And what was the last part of that question? I'm sorry.
What areas should or should not be included?
I'm sorry, it broke up on that first part.
Let me just read it again. I'm sorry. I noticed an echo too. How do you define the separation of church and state regarding public school districts, and what areas should or should not be included?
Well, I think it should be separate. I mean, that's the bottom line. I don't, I think that that's pretty much simple. I mean, I just think they should be separate.
Okay, thank you. Justin, your thoughts? Church and state?
I agree. I think families should be more than welcome to practice whatever faith or religion they have in the evenings and weekends and things like that. I know I did growing up, but I do believe that it just might add more divisiveness if we start to bring that in as something else that we would have to deal with on an educational basis on the day to day. So I do believe still that we should keep church and state separate.
Thank you. Sarah?
If you walked in the door of my building, you'd see I've got stickers up all over about separation of church and state. I believe if you want your child to go to a school with religious overtones, and this is as a minister I say this, then you put them in a parochial school. My father taught public school for 35 years before he became a private school teacher, and I know you have to be part of the parish of whatever to go to that school, or you pay a tuition. But if that's what you want, that's what you should do. I don't believe that any religion, any faith tradition needs to be influencing what is taught in schools. And I believe that my joke has always been every time somebody came at me and said, let's put prayer back in schools, that as long as they test students, there will be prayer in schools.
Okay. Zach?
Well, it sounds like we're pretty much all in alignment here. I absolutely agree that this is fundamental that they maintain themselves as separate. One of the great gifts of public schools is the engagement of our students in critical thinking in the humanities, letting them read and explore philosophy. And they are at a pivotal point in their own development where they are understanding who they are and who they are becoming. and ultimately that is formed in part by their home or where they reside, the faith or non-faith of that experience. And so the role of the public school is really to be a safe place for academic exploration, where they can learn critical thought to analyze some of those fundamental frameworks about various potential beliefs or morals, values, ethics. But the school's job is not to set or direct which way to go on that. So separation, this is an elemental and fundamental part of our nation, and I will continue to be an advocate for it.
Thank you. Last question before your 2-minute closing, but the last question is, what question do you wish I had asked, and how would you have answered it? And we'll start with you, Zach.
Which question do I wish you would have asked? You asked some really great questions. Perhaps a question about some of the ways in which we've experienced the district using data to make decisions. Um, you know, that's a primary focus for me, but I also am continually passionate about community engagement as well. But you asked a question about that. So you really touched on the things that matter most to me about this race, I think. The one thing that I would have appreciated a question about would have been some engagement with the students, the heart and soul of our schools. Teachers are great, staff are great, but we don't have staff and teachers if we don't have students. And so, uh, the opportunity to talk about the incredible ISD students that we have in our district is amazing. One of my favorite parts about being part of the Independence Rotary Club is celebrating the students of the week. And when they come from Truman or Chrisman or Van Horn, we do celebrate Fort Osage as well, so I don't want to leave them out. But I'm running for ISD school board, not Fort Osage school board. We have amazing students. So um, next time we can ask questions about our students, and you can hear all four of us champion and cheerlead the incredible young people that make ISD what it is.
Great, thank you. Sarah?
Um, I would just say I kind of echo that. I would love to brag about some of the students. I like to point out, whether it's popular or not, that the young adults that are pushing the no data center drive are independent school district graduates from 2016, 17, 18. They're educated now. They've finished high school, went on to college, and have invested back in the community, which to me is a win-win for the community and proof that students are coming out adequately prepared and feeling ready to take on the world. So that is really all, but you kind of covered that indirectly and other things that have been said.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Jeffrey?
I think kind of what Sarah said. I was surprised that we didn't have more questions about the data center and the impact it's going to have on the school district, and maybe some bond questions. We're for against the bond, and this has been a great opportunity to listen to everybody. I think that if I was a voter right now, I'd be looking at all four candidates saying, well, at least every one of them's got the best interests of the kids at heart, and I think that's important. So,
Justin?
Yeah,
Question you wish we had asked?
I think, well, number one, I'm glad I didn't have to go first on this one. That was a bit of a trip up, so well done, Zach. I would say that I wish you guys would have asked a question about the new leadership that's coming into our district. So turnover is rare in Independence. I go all the way back to Dr. Henson through Dr. Hurl, Dr. Grant as the interim, and now we have a new incoming superintendent that is going to be new to the district, which is something that we haven't faced in a very long time. We've had internal candidates year over year. We tend to promote from within. So having someone come to our district that is from Blue Springs, went to to Van Horn High School. I know that she's got local ties, but she's been out of state for a while. She's got some great experience there, but there's new blood, new leadership coming into this district. And so I think that would have been a great topic to cover. I really do, because I think that's going to be something unique and different that we as a school district haven't gotten to experience in quite some time.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to move to your 2-minute closing remarks. I want to personally thank you all for joining us. You've been very interesting, and I think it would be hard to choose all of you. I think they need to expand the board, but that's just my thoughts on that. You all sound wonderful. We'd like to ask that you share the league's website, lwvkc.org, with voters and encourage all citizens to show up on each election day and exercise their right to vote. And now we'll turn to your closing remarks. And Sarah, we'll start with you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What I had intended to say in the beginning before, and I do apologize. I'm from the South. I talk a little slower, but I do have an education degree as well as an English degree before I got my master's in divinity, and I'm getting my doctorate in leadership. So I may call you Zach, but I really think that regardless, the onus of the school district is to produce well-prepared adults to go out in the world. And so I think that it's important that we continue to support our students, our staff, our families, because somebody pointed out recently that school district is the largest employer in the city of Independence as well. So that's important too. And so I would say if elected, I intend to support all of them.
Thank you. Zach, your 2-minute closing.
All right, I'm a preacher and a professor, so 2 minutes is tough, but I'll give it my best. Thank you, Cheryl. You've been a wonderful host this evening, asking us great questions. Thank you to the League of Women Voters again for the work that you do in our communities. I, like Jeffrey, am grateful for the opportunity to listen to my colleagues, and we haven't had much of an opportunity to be together or hear from one another, so this has been really nice. At the end of the day, I am a product of ISD schools. This is my home. This is where I grew up. I lived all over the U.S. for a little bit, but I came home and I couldn't be happier. Uh, you know, I'm honored to even just be part of the conversation, and ultimately part of my goal is to elevate the voice of our community and its engagement with ISD. So we have a lot in front of us, not only as a school district, but as a community. And like I said at the very beginning of tonight's forum, the school district is the entry point to independence. It is not a vacuum. It is the engine that drives everything else. And our schools are vital and important to the work we do in this community and ultimately what this community becomes. So I will continue to be an advocate for our educators and for our staff. I will continue to try to pay attention to the gaps where we're underserving different areas of our community and where we're creating unintentional gaps of inequity. I will continue to ask critical questions that sometimes aren't fun to ask, but are essential to ask so that we make sure every voice is being heard or at least recognized. And What a joy to be on this journey and to participate in this experience. I wish everybody the best next week.
Thank you. Justin?
Yeah, first I would like to thank you guys for having us tonight. It's been great. It's been fun to get to hear from the other candidates and kind of see their perspectives. And um, what I was most impressed about tonight is we're all kind of singing the same tune. So it's kind of cool. I've lived in Independence for since 2002, so we're going on 24 years now, and I've put 3 kids through the Independence School District start to finish. I have family members that work in the district, and really what I think is I bring a unique perspective to the school board. It's what I do each and every day in my profession as I do nothing but learning environments. I work on schools. I've worked at the Independent School District for almost 25 years now as an architect. So I have a lot of knowledge of the buildings, the students, how they work, and then the district as a whole. I understand some of the finances. I understand the curriculum. I was part of some of the big moves that the district has made over the last 10, 12 years. So, and I've always looked for more ways to give back to the community that's given me and my family so much. And so as my students start to age out and graduate and they move on to their next endeavors of college or whatever they choose to do to be happy adults and move on in life, I'm still here. I want to be here. This is my city, and I want to find ways to continue to give back. And I think I can do that with a unique perspective and a skill set that I do have. And I really want to look for ways to enhance the school district. We've talked about it, and I truly believe that people will support what they believe in. And I think a lot of people believe in the independent school district. I think they trust us with their students, and I want to find ways to continue that and expand upon that and give options to more students, whether that be through CTE or STEM or STEAM opportunities. Explore those in the middle school areas. So work on those soft skills and introduce students at the 7th and 8th grade level, into some of the academies things that are there, and start to give those students more options and opportunities earlier to make those decisions of what they might want to do as they move into their adult life. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. And Jeffrey, for 2 minute
No,
closing?
I think that after serving as in public safety for all these years, I was ready. I'm ready to take on another endeavor, and I think the independent school district to me has just done an outstanding job at some things. And I think the one thing we all agree on is the accountability and transparency. If any of us get elected, we're gonna focus on that. I think every one of us have said that, and I think in this day and age with everything going on, we have to. But I got to tell you, I'm representing. I live east of 291, and that's a nice area there. And back in the day when we took in the Blue Summit area and Sugar Creek and parts of Kansas City, the Van Horn area, I was critical of that. I didn't really want to take that area on. But let me tell you, I want to represent these people out here because they have just turned that school around. And there's such a sense of pride when you go to Van Horn now. Not to mention they won state soccer championship this year. But I just love the fact that people are proud to live in this area and go to that school district or that school. And, I think that says a lot about the independent school district innovative ideas. They took on that and took it in. And then they went out and got the 4-day work week. And, I just think that I want to be a part of this and keep this district growing. We're on the right track. Looking at other school districts' budgets and stuff, it's crazy how good a shape we're in compared to others. And I'm going to let everybody know a little secret about Jackson County. The tax woes are going to continue until we figure that out. And that directly affects the school district. So we're going to have some decisions to make. But, man, I think we're in great shape, and I want to continue to build on that. And, my expertise in public safety, I think that brings a new perspective to the board. Obviously, my main focus in running for school board is school safety. I got a 7-year-old in the district, and I want to make sure that he's safe, and I want to make sure our staff is safe, and I have ideas and stuff. And I also know my role as a board member. We're just support staff.
Thank you.
Ran out of time.
So thank you all. I'm going to turn the show back over to Anitra.
Thank you, audience, for your interest in the April 7th election. A recording of this forum will be available on the League's website, lwvkc.org. Please take a moment to share our forums via your Facebook, Nextdoor, and other social media channels. And remember, for voting and candidate information, visit lwvkc.org and vote411.org. Thank you, candidates. Good night.